Hello and welcome to the New World Review, your source for everything hunters and nen and assorted chimera ant things. And today we're going to be taking a very subjective look at Hunter x Hunter by examining some of my personal favorite characters. And I have to say that this was not as easy as a list to make as I would have thought, because looking back on it, this series has so many wonderfully compelling figures, and it's amazing just how Togashi can turn even the most minor of characters into a surprisingly well fleshed out existence. For the most part anyway. I mean, there are definitely examples of characters who fall quite flat in Hunter x Hunter, but that is a discussion for another day. This time around, we're just here to honor those that have had the most impact on me personally, and unlike my other top 5 lists, there really is no greater criteria to this discussion than that. So with that out of the way, let's begin. Welcome to my top 5 favorite characters in Hunter x Hunter. Number 5. Knuckle. What a story this guy is. So I vividly remember sighing the first moment Knuckle was introduced because he looked like a character that I would immediately just hate. I mean, he was loud, aggressive, and had that typical juvenile anime style going on. I was convinced that he would be a detriment to the series, especially during the Chimera Ant arc, which was stretching on and on and on and on, and it was like, now I have to put up with this guy? But oh, how wrong I was. I really was caught off guard by how quickly my opinion changed in regards to Knuckle, and now I consider him to be one of the most prolific hearts and souls of the entirety of Hunter x Hunter as a series. Knuckle stands out in a selfish world like this because he is incredibly empathetic and a bit of a softie, which works beautifully in contrast to his aggressive exterior aesthetics. The first thing that really got me on board with him was how he kept feeding all of the stray dogs, and every night he'd just acquire more and more and more of them. So as a dog person, that had a big part in the change of my opinion. But on a more serious scale, Knuckle was a member of the Chimera Ant extermination team who had a very different approach to the job than everyone else, who were all more or less there to kill a threat. Whereas Knuckle's goal was more to see and understand these beings before making a decision on what their eventual fate should be, which was a layer I very much appreciated in an arc consumed by death and revenge seeking. Knuckle was this small ray of light, and it even culminated in him willingly giving up the chance to defeat one of the King's Royal Guard by deactivating APR. Speaking of, a huge part of why I love Knuckle also has to do with his nen ability, Akaware. As someone who despises maths with quite a burning passion, I am still somehow captivated by the idea of applying compound interest to the world of Nen, and it got used to great dramatic effect in the Chimera Ant arc against both Gon and Yuppie. Plus, APR is just so damn cute. How can you not love this? And by association, how can you not love Knuckle? Number 4. Chrollo. So Chrollo is one of those characters who, unlike Knuckle, I immediately knew was probably about to become one of my favorite characters as soon as we met him. Admittedly, mostly due to his schmick cool bad guy aesthetics, but he only went on to become so much more awesome from there. He's a very classically mysterious figure, like you can never quite tell what Mr. Chrollo is thinking, and that's probably for the best because his mind operates at an exceptionally quick pace, so it's generally more interesting to view his actions and then be given a retrospective explanation of why he did the things that he did. But a lot of what allows Chrollo to be captivating is his specialist nen ability, being Bandit Secret, which when performed properly allows him to steal the nen powers of others. And in most media, power thieves or mimics always represent some of the more fascinating characters, but Chrollo is on a whole different level. He is a collector, a connoisseur of abilities if you will, and he doesn't just haphazardly throw one of his toys into your face. No, he thinks very carefully about how to wield and combine separate abilities to create impossibly powerful results. And nowhere was that better displayed than in his battle against Hisoka in Heaven's Arena, which, while it did my head in to read through the first time, was a very unique experience in the entire battle manga subgenre. But even his skirmish against Zeno and Silver was very worthy of attention. I mean, the fact that this man has the intellect and resources to take on 2 of the world's most accomplished assassins and actually holds his own is nothing short of amazing. Furthermore, Chrollo also isn't a standard antagonist, because it has been shown on multiple occasions that he does indeed have some sort of heart and cares greatly for the other members of the Phantom Troop. So despite the fact that Chrollo will kill mercilessly and even order an entire genocide for the sake of profit, he does still have that third dimension to him, and this series is generally at its most interesting when he is involved. Number 3. Isaac Netero. Now we have the chairman himself, and unlike the other 2 characters we've examined so far, when I first encountered Netero, I had no strong feelings one way or the other. During the Hunter exam, he seemed like a classically quirky old man who was inevitably going to be super powerful, but he was just kind of there for me. However, the Chimera Ant arc went on to change absolutely everything, of course. I now view Netero as one of the more surprisingly complex individuals within Hunter x Hunter. At face value, his desires are very simple: fight the ultimate strong opponent, but his quest to reach that point was anything but. It was filled with lots of acts of great good and great evil that make Netero a very problematic character if you try to examine the series from any perspective of morality. But that is exactly the sort of thing I love about Hunter x Hunter. I mean, even at the end of his life in the series, Netero left on both a note of hope for humanity, but also one of extreme terror, proclaiming humanity's great potential for both evolution and malice. With what looks to be one of the most sinister Rens we've ever seen that managed to scare even Meruem for the first and only time during his entire 40-day existence on this planet. And of course, a massive part of why I enjoy Netero so much is that battle that was conducted beforehand with Meruem and the use of the 100 type Guanyin Bodhisattva. This thing is a visual feast. So much so that the series is going to have one hell of a time trying to top it in future arcs, if Togashi even decides to attempt that. But in the end, Netero proved to be one hell of an incredible character, and someone whose legacy is still alive and well in the arcs following his death. I mean, hearing stuff about his history traveling to the Dark Continent, or his desire for the Association to stop his son Beyond, only keeps adding to the intrigue and respect that I have for this figure. A truly supreme presence, but still not quite my favorite character in the series. Number 2. Hisoka. Moving now to the Joker of the Hunter x Hunter world, and I don't know, I just can't help but love Hisoka, despite everything he is and what he stands for. I mean, yes, he is admittedly an antagonistic creepy magician who is turned on beyond all belief by the prospect of combat with strong opponents, regardless of who said opponents are, even children. But what Hisoka achieves despite that is providing a profoundly menacing presence throughout the entirety of the series. There is no antagonist who quite equals what Hisoka brings to the table, which is this sense of terrifying anarchy. You never know what is going to happen when he's around. Like, is he going to go on a brutal murderous rampage? Or is he going to settle down for a lovely game of dodgeball? It's all entirely up to the whims of this creepy clown. As a result of that dynamic, the cool thing about Hisoka is that the audience of Hunter x Hunter have experienced him in every main role the series has to offer. He's been a primary antagonist, he's also been a sort of anti-hero ally, and he has even become a straight up protagonist on occasion, which also makes him very, very hard to predict narratively. Like, for example, with a character like Chrollo, you always have a solid understanding of what he stands for and where he's going to end up in the series. But Hisoka just keeps bouncing around. I mean, who knows, by the end of Hunter x Hunter, he may end up replacing Gon, Killua, Kurapika, and Leorio as a proper protagonist. And weirdly enough, that's not an idea that I mind at all. And in regards to combat, on paper, he would seem pretty disappointing. I mean, he has a mere one primary Hatsu and another sneaky utility technique, but Hisoka wields bungee gum so masterfully that he has learnt to adapt it to essentially any situation, and it's always amazing to see how he manages to continually push this ability, as well as his study of Nen in general, even going so far as to become one of the rare individuals to invoke post-mortem Nen and become more powerful than any of us can imagine. Plus, I really enjoy his design and general demeanor. I think he's just a really well pumped out character in manga history, and very close to being my favorite in all of Hunter x Hunter. That is, if it were not for number 1. Killua. Killua is the greatest gift that this series has to offer. Without this young Zoldyck, everything would fall apart. His friendship with Gon is one of the most beautiful and heartbreaking, depending on the situation, explorations of friendship I've ever seen in storytelling across any medium. And it's such a far cry from what I thought this assassin kid would end up being when he was first introduced. But in the end, Killua actually turned out to trump every other protagonist in terms of sheer heart, with the exception of maybe Leorio, I guess. But it's weird because in a series like Hunter x Hunter, you'd think that Gon was the one who was supposed to carry that sort of emotional weight, but for most of Hunter x Hunter, it's about Killua supporting Gon, supporting his first and best friend in the world. And that also goes on to extend to his latter role in the story, where he becomes focused on simply being a good older brother for both Alaka and Nanika, after of course he had gone through hell and back to heal Gon. And in terms of Nen use, Killua is always astounding. I love everything he does as a transmuter, focusing on electricity and developing spectacles like Godspeed. In fact, one of my favorite Killua memories in the series is him activating Godspeed and taking on Yuppie in the Chimera Ant arc. It was just so hype. As well as the moment where he removed Illumi's needle from his head and went on to thoroughly destroy Ramot. Killua just gets all of these phenomenal story beats, and that really does make him the greatest presence in the series, in my opinion. I could not imagine Hunter x Hunter without him, and that's why Killua will always remain by far my favorite character. And that pretty much does it for my top 5 favorite characters in Hunter x Hunter. If you enjoyed this video and the content this channel produces in general, then please do consider donating to the New World Review Patreon, because the support of all of you amazing people is what continues to make this channel possible. And if Patreon isn't quite your style, then please do leave this video a like, share, or subscribe, because it also helps support this channel an incredible amount. And if you'd like to join the fun at any time, then please do head over to my Discord server, where a wide array of shenaniganry takes place on a daily basis. And finally, please do comment with your own favorite characters in the series. This has been the New World Review, and I'll see you next time. Why do you emphasize on only Hunter x Hunter and not other anime and manga? Excellent question. Basically, I began the New World channel to be a sort of coverall for any anime and manga that weren't One Piece because I already have an entire channel dedicated to One Piece. And as part of that, I decided that I would cover Hunter x Hunter, and as time went on, the Hunter x Hunter videos started getting pretty exponentially large views, so I made sure to keep those consistent, and that trend has only been growing from there. And I mean, we're talking a massive difference here. Like 4 months ago, if I posted a Hunter x Hunter video, it was guaranteed to be getting like 20,000 views, while if I covered literally anything else, it might get 5,000 if it was lucky. Like a lot of my Death Note videos still sit at about that number. But just over a month ago now, the views for the Hunter x Hunter stuff seriously exploded, so now we're talking anywhere from 60,000 to 100,000 views on average, and some of them have even gone far beyond that. So what I'm doing on the channel is basically a response to what the large majority of my viewers seem to want. Also, I can't deny that when I'm thinking about what video to make next, something that seems like a guaranteed hit is always going to be more prominent in my mind than taking a risk that could get as little as 2,000 views in total. So sadly, that's the kind of state the channel is in at the moment. I mean, I don't particularly mind because I do love Hunter x Hunter, but I also understand that that's not why this channel originally began. So, you know, I guess we'll just have to see how things proceed from here.